When you were on public transportation during peak hours, you were packed like a can of sardines, and all of a sudden you were hit by the unmistakable smell of sweat from the person in front of you. Have you ever found yourself in this situation? When the person in question turns out to be a persistent and annoying talker who is loudly conversing over the phone, a situation like this can cause discomfort and annoyance, particularly when the individual in question is called. He responds with a rude retort and continues his disruptive behavior whenever someone tries to correct him from his behavior. Dealing with impolite and obnoxious individuals in a variety of everyday situations is something that all of us have experienced. They can be found absolutely anywhere on public transportation, trains, streets, restaurants, workplaces, in traffic, and even in our personal spaces. These troublesome individuals originate from every region of the world and come from every available socioeconomic background. It appears that some people are not aware of fundamental social etiquette, while others, despite being aware of it, choose to disregard it. What course of action should we take with people like that? Some insightful observations can be gleaned from ancient Stoic philosophers. They addressed cases of treacherous relatives, neglectful parents, rude individuals in public baths, and those lacking manners and cleanliness in shared spaces. They frequently discussed how to interact with difficult people, including how to resolve situations involving these types of people. What are some appropriate ways to conduct ourselves when we are in the presence of passengers who are loud and smell foul, annoying co-workers, or even people who are abusive or narcissistic? From a Stoic philosophical point of view, this video delves deeply into the problem of managing relationships with challenging individuals, including those who lack personal hygiene. It does so by supplementing the discussion with pertinent personal anecdotes. Upon being banished from Rome, Epictetus relocated to Nicopolis, a city located in the northern region of Greece, and established his permanent residence there. In Nicopolis, he established a school of philosophy and had the opportunity to serve as a mentor to a young man named Arrian, who showed great potential. Arrian was responsible for preserving Epictetus' invaluable teachings for future generations. He did this by compiling a comprehensive series of lectures and creating a summary of the most important lessons that Epictetus had taught him. Bathing is a fundamental part of Roman culture, and one of these lessons focuses on that aspect. In the Roman Empire, public baths were a prominent institution, and the culture of bathing, which had been passed down from the ancient Greeks, spread throughout the Mediterranean region. The act of bathing was not only a means of maintenance of cleanliness, but also a social activity. Public baths were frequented by Roman citizens not only for the purpose of personal cleanliness, but also for the purpose of socializing, inviting others to social gatherings, and, in the case of politicians, garnering public support. Even the wealthy, who had the financial means to keep their own private baths, were drawn to public bathhouses because of the social dynamics that emerged from their presence. These locations offered a comfortable environment for engaging in physical activities, interacting with others, unwinding and playing games. Nevertheless, as one might imagine, the presence of a diverse range of customers in crowded public places inevitably resulted in behaviors that were not desirable. There were some bath-goers who behaved in an irresponsible manner, such as splashing water on other people, stealing belongings, or acting as if they owned the spot. When one reads Stoic writings, they come to the realization that, in many respects, human nature has remained the same over the course of history, and that challenging figures have always been present. In light of this, what were Epictetus' recommendations for dealing with problematic people during his time period? In his teachings, Epictetus encouraged his pupils to reflect on the fundamental aspects of their daily routines. Visiting a public bathhouse is one example of a situation that has its own set of distinctive characteristics. When going to these kinds of locations, one ought to be ready to deal with unfavorable circumstances, such as people splashing water, chaos, offensive language, shouting, intimidating behaviors, and other inconveniences. We won't be caught off guard when these inherent conditions of the environment occur if we have a thorough understanding of them and are willing to accept them. Therefore, what advice does Epictetus give? As an alternative to concentrating solely on the activity itself, such as taking a bath, he suggests that we should concentrate on preserving our composure and emotional control in the face of challenges. He concluded by saying, "You will act more appropriately if you remind yourself, 'Now I'm going to bathe,' keeping calmness and conformity with nature in my mind. Additionally, this holds true for any other activity. Because of this, you will be ready to think. My objective wasn't just to bathe, but to keep my mind in tune with nature, and I will fail in this if I get annoyed with the events that arise. This will be the case in the event that any obstacle arises while you are taking a bath." In a similar manner, this Stoic perspective can be applied to the utilization of public transportation. Pose the question to yourself, what exactly is the nature of this activity? Are we able to anticipate that our experience with public transportation will always be calm and comfortable, with friendly people arriving on time the majority of the time? Obviously, that is not the case. When it comes to this mode of transportation, but anyone who has used it is aware that while there are moments of pleasure, those moments do not constitute the entirety of the experience. There are going to be situations that are going to be uncomfortable, such as people who are loud, people who have unpleasant odors, and even people who are trying to avoid paying their fare. Therefore, in accordance with Epictetus' teachings, how would a Stoic behave when using public transportation? For the answer, there are two components. First things first, before you leave your house, give some thought to the mode of transportation you will be taking. During the trip, the next step is to concentrate on preserving your inner calm and tranquility. When you are getting on a bus, you should be prepared for certain delays. Prepare yourself to deal with irritable employees and passengers who are not to your liking when you board the train. As a result of your perseverance up to this point, you have demonstrated that you are truly dedicated to incorporating Stoic philosophy into your life. Now, I would like to extend an invitation to you to become a member of our remarkable community of people who are looking for serenity. Make sure you don't miss out on any of the insightful information that we share here by clicking on the subscribe button right now and turning on the notification bell. But before you leave, please leave a comment below with the phrase "one ready for the Stoic transformation." I am curious about the individuals who are the true warriors of self-awareness. If you found this video to be helpful, please show your appreciation by clicking the like button. It is of great assistance to disseminate these important lessons to a greater number of individuals who are prepared to make a change in their lives, just like you. I can't thank you enough for being here, for devoting yourself to your own development, and for being a part of this journey that is bringing about transformation. Additionally, Marcus Aurelius, who was a follower of Stoicism and was known as one of the greatest Roman emperors, was required to engage in daily interactions with a wide range of individuals, including those who presented the greatest challenges. He had to deal with people who were haughty, demanding, unfair, and dishonest throughout his career. A monumental task that was loaded with responsibilities and pressures. Being an emperor was a massive undertaking. Imagine that you are the most powerful person in the world at the moment, that you are constantly the object of envy, that there are countless people who want to usurp your position, and that an entire empire is dependent on your decisions and leadership. As part of his pursuit of enlightenment and inner peace, Marcus Aurelius utilized the practice of writing in his personal diary to contemplate a variety of aspects of life and the behavior of individuals. He reflected on a variety of topics, including the ability to persevere through challenging circumstances, the meaning of life, the nature of humans, and, of course, the difficulty of interacting with challenging individuals. Marcus Aurelius offers a Stoic perspective on how to deal with something that is both commonplace and unpleasant, such as body odors, in the example that was mentioned earlier. He brings to our attention the fact that rather than becoming irritated, we ought to make use of our rationality and empathy in order to comprehend the circumstance and, if at all possible, assist the other individual in becoming aware of the issue. A practical and understanding approach to Stoic teachings is reflected here. Stoic teachings encourage us to concentrate on what we are able to control, which is our reactions and actions, and to accept or empathize with what we are unable to control, which is the behavior of other people. Once again, the teachings of Epictetus are helpful when it comes to the problem of dealing with unpleasant behaviors in close people, such as parents. It is his recommendation that we approach difficult circumstances from a different perspective, looking for a handle that we are able to carry, that is, the viewpoint that enables us to deal with the situation in a manner that is both more constructive and favorable to our health. Instead of dwelling on the negative aspects of the relationship or the person, it is common practice to concentrate on the positive aspects of the relationship or the positive qualities of the person. On the other hand, as you have correctly pointed out, there are circumstances in which a person can be so toxic that the relationship becomes unsustainable, even when one is attempting to observe the positive aspects of the situation. In these kinds of situations, it might be necessary to establish distinct boundaries or even to put some distance between oneself and the individual in order to protect one's health. To the Stoics, inner tranquility and wisdom were of the utmost importance, and they understood that there are circumstances in which the most prudent course of action might be to shield oneself from the influence of negativity. Moving forward with this topic, it is of the utmost importance to keep in mind that the teachings of Stoicism do not encourage us to be passive or to accept injustices without questioning them. We are encouraged to act in accordance with our values and principles, with the primary focus being on preserving our inner tranquility and maintaining the appropriate perspective on the circumstances and individuals that surround us. On the other hand, they are aware that there are instances in which the circumstance becomes intolerable and that the most prudent and healthy course of action is to withdraw from the situation. The most important thing is to acknowledge that we have the option to remain or to leave, and that this decision ought to be based on a thoughtful and rational evaluation of the circumstance, rather than on the impulses that are triggered by our emotions. In the case of your relative, it appears that you made a choice that was deliberate and thought out, and that decision was to step away after a considerable amount of time spent being patient and tolerant. This aligns with the teachings of the Stoic philosophy. Stoics do not encourage us to be passive or to accept inappropriate treatment for an indefinite period of time. As an alternative, they instruct us to recognize what is within our control, to act in accordance with our values, and to seek serenity regardless of the circumstances that are occurring outside of ourselves. The Stoic approach that you describe for dealing with difficult people and the temptation to seek revenge is profound and reflects wisdom that has stood the test of time. Stoics held the belief that we ought to concentrate on the things that are under our control, and our actions and reactions are certainly something that falls into that category. In addition to this, they emphasized the significance of virtue as the highest good and expressed the belief that we ought to make an effort to live in accordance with nature and reason. It is possible that the Stoic approach can be extremely liberating when it comes to dealing with difficult people. Instead of allowing ourselves to be consumed by anger, resentment, or a desire for revenge, we have the option of responding with compassion, understanding, and, when it is necessary, a healthy detachment from the situation. No, this does not imply that we should put up with being mistreated or that we should let other people hurt us. Instead, we have the ability to establish clear boundaries and take preventative measures to safeguard ourselves. On the other hand, we do not allow the actions of other people to disrupt our inner peace or cause us to behave in a manner that is inconsistent with our principles and our integrity. Concerning the topic of vengeance, the Stoic viewpoint that you presented serves as a potent reminder that the act of seeking revenge ultimately causes us more harm than the individual that we are attempting to punish. That is an act of self-sabotage because it causes us to stray from the path that leads to wisdom and virtue. Stoics would encourage us to practice forgiveness rather than seeking revenge, not necessarily because the other person deserves it, but because we deserve peace. This is rather than because the other person deserves it. The idea that we can only be harmed by our own judgments and reactions, and not by the actions of other people, is the Stoic suggestion that I appreciate the most. When we adopt this point of view, we are given the ability to choose how we react to any circumstance, regardless of how difficult it may be. This perspective gives us the power to make decisions. When it comes to difficult interpersonal relationships, gaining an understanding of Stoic philosophy and putting it into practice can be a journey that can be transformative. Stoicism teaches that we should learn to distinguish between things that we are able to control and things that we are unable to control. At the same time that we have control over our reactions, emotions, and decisions, we do not have control over the actions and opinions of other people. Due to the fact that we are no longer dependent on the actions of others or the circumstances that we find ourselves in, we are able to achieve a sense of autonomy and peace when we truly internalize this principle. It is my recommendation that you read The Path of the Prosperous Stoic, an enlightening ebook that will unlock your prosperity and abundance if you are interested in taking a further step in your development. The link is included in the comment that has been pinned. Furthermore, Stoic philosophy places an emphasis on the significance of living in accordance with our own nature and principles, as opposed to being driven by the desire for approval or the fear of being rejected. When dealing with narcissistic or toxic individuals, such as the family member that was mentioned earlier, this is an extremely important consideration. Stoics would remind us that the opinion of another person does not determine our worth, and that we should seek validation from within ourselves by living in accordance with our own value system and principles. It is especially helpful in this situation to make a distinction between the things that we can control and those that we cannot control. Instead of attempting to change the difficult person or seeking revenge on them, which is something that is beyond our control and will most likely only result in further frustration, we have the ability to choose how we respond to them and how we interact with these individuals. We have the ability to establish beneficial boundaries, safeguard our inner tranquility, and choose when and how to engage or not engage. There is also the Stoic concept of amor fati, which can be translated as love of fate. This practice entails viewing everything that occurs in our lives, including difficulties and people who are difficult to deal with, as opportunities to cultivate virtue and grow as individuals. Stoicism encourages us to accept and embrace reality as it is, trusting that everything contributes in some way to the greater good. Instead of wishing things were different, Stoicism encourages us to accept and embrace reality as it is. In conclusion, Stoics serve to bring to our attention the transience of all things. Situations and relationships that are difficult to deal with are only temporary, just like our own lives. Having this perspective can assist us in keeping a balanced view and preventing us from becoming mired in resentment or the desire to exact revenge. Instead, we have the option of concentrating on the here and now, cultivating an attitude of gratitude, and making it our goal to live our lives in accordance with our core beliefs, regardless of what other people may do or say. This Stoic approach, when consistently practiced, has the potential to lead to a life of inner peace, integrity, and wisdom, regardless of the circumstances that have occurred in the outside world or the actions of other people. May each of you find peace with the Creator